Welcome to Talks with Tracy, with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end and the healing begin.
Hello and welcome to Talks with Tracy. I am your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you so much for watching and being here, and thank you, Bold Brave Television, for having me. So here on Talks with Tracy, we talk about emotional healing, the kind of emotional healing that really needs to be done when we find ourselves suffering, that really painful kind of suffering, that we don't have to live that way. We can heal that suffering, and really finding the courage and the strength and the inspiration to do that. So here on Talks with Tracy, I like to try to provide demonstrations of what that looks like, what it means, talks about how it feels to encourage and inspire. So this is the kind of, emotional suffering that really causes the greatest of pains in our life. Sometimes we find ourselves caught up in reoccurring patterns, reoccurring life circumstances, and, just repeating painful, toxic relationships, perhaps, maybe having friendships that hurt us, maybe engaging in self-sabotaging behaviors or caught up in addictions. There's just so many ways that these kind of patterns can show themselves, all based on our emotions that are driving us forward. Last week, I had Katie Howard on, and she talked about her issues with people pleasing that were really generated by a belief, a deep-seated belief within her that she wasn't worthy of respect and good treatment. Like, she wasn't worthy of putting herself first, and she lacked self-love. I don't know if you had a chance to see that, but if you haven't, please do. So, when you peel away the layers, it's all about these experiences, being driven by emotion. And this emotion is just full of energy. It's full of energy. And, it really dictates how we experience our lives. It colors our perceptions. It drives us forward. So if not tended to, we will continue to stay stuck in these patterns, and we will continue to suffer. And this could lead to dire consequences. It can certainly affect our mental health. It affects our quality of life. It can really be impactful on our physical health and well-being. So now on Talks with Tracy number 9, I shared some of my own personal story, and I was talking about some of the signs that I was experiencing. My mind was showing me these signs and telling me that it's time to create change and do the deep dive inward. And there were numerous physical signs that I talked about that I just kind of ignored for the longest time. So, it culminated in this 3.5 year stretch of real suffering, where I was realizing my awareness had been brought up to my suffering, and I needed to make the changes. I needed to do the healing, and it was just overwhelmingly frightening. It was so scary because I knew the resistance that was going to happen, and I knew that I was going to have to face these fears and change the belief I had within myself about myself. And this was all overwhelming and frightening. And it took a long time, and I was living in that prolonged state of suffering, which created a toxic internal state for me. So towards the end of that 3.5 years, I actually, among all the other signs, physical signs I was having, I actually developed type 1 diabetes. And it's part of my knowing that I had created this incredibly toxic internal environment within my body that was just so full of stress hormones and toxicity that my pancreas, after a while, it was just like, peace out. I can't do this. I am done. creating insulin for you and suffering in your toxic environment. So now I don't really blame my pancreas. I think I might have done the same thing if I was my pancreas. So who wants to live in that toxic environment? My goodness. So now please don't take this as me saying that people with type 1 diabetes create it themselves and they're to blame for it or anything. I would never say anything like that. This is just my own story about my own body and my own uh, development of type 1 diabetes. So please don't ever think I'm judging anybody with any kind of medical conditions or blaming them for them. I'm just talking about my own experience, and I know for a fact, and it is part of my knowing, that my internal environment brought to fruition that which was in my DNA, and I developed type 1 diabetes. So, and that was just like a prolonged state of toxicity. So, my guest today is just an amazing woman who has a similar story to share with us. Nikki Lund, Reiki Master, is my guest for today. I'm so excited about having her on. She is just an amazing woman. She's here to share her story, and she has a lifetime of adversity that she's willing to talk about and share with us. And this really impacted her life, and she is an amazing demonstration of both emotional suffering and profound healing. So, in fact, she is using Reiki in her own treatment of cancer. So, absolutely amazing. I've done Reiki with her myself. She is incredibly intuitive and has such great ability to guide healing in Reiki. And one of my favorite things about her is just her being so genuine and so open and so invested in connecting and sharing in that connection, joining in connection that supports us in our healing, and she inspires in the most beautiful ways. So please join me in welcoming Nikki Lund. Hi,
Hello.
Nikki. Hi. Thank you
Hi.
for being here today. I'm so excited to have
I
you. So
am too.
yeah, you heard my opening. Does any of that
Yeah,
sound a little bit
I'm
familiar?
blushing a little bit.
Well,
Thank
you are
you.
amazing, and there's so many beautiful things about you. And one of the things I noticed right away was just your compassion and your connection with people. It's really beautiful and such a great energy. So the stuff I was saying about emotional suffering and physical outcomes and uh, adverse life experiences, that you kind of have a story that goes along with that. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I've got some miles.
You got some miles on you,
Yeah,
right? You're a Reiki master, correct?
I am Reiki master teacher. Yep.
Wonderful. And I know that one of the things that you live by is the mind, body, spirit connection.
Yep.
Is that
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that and the work that you've done.
Well, um, we have our physical body and we have our mind, our mental body, and we
Mm-hmm.
also have a spiritual body. And, we take care of our mind. We can go get mental health treatment, we can eat the right foods, we can work our bodies out, we can sleep
Mm-hmm.
well. But what are we doing for our emotional or our spiritual body, which is
Mm-hmm.
emotion? How are we
Right.
taking care of that? Are we tuned into it? Are we listening to it? And, 9 times out of 10, when I see clients, they really don't know how to help themselves in that way. Where do we begin? We're not taught
Mm.
how to take care of that body. And, energy is who we are. We're consciousness within a
Mm-hmm.
body. The consciousness comes
Right.
first, the energy comes first. And we're almost
Mm-hmm.
oblivious to it. I know I was years
Mm.
ago. I
Right.
knew I was very spiritual. Um, I had that spiritual connection, but as far as maintaining it and taking care of it in the appropriate way, I had no idea. I really didn't know. And I see
Right.
so much of that.
Mm,
It's neglected when it's so
right.
important. It's the first thing we should be looking at and thinking about. So that's
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you had when we were talking earlier, you had given an example of, like, say you're doing Reiki with somebody with lower back pain. Like, what might that be uh, a product of? Like, what's an
so you want
example?
your physical body will indicate, first it will whisper and then it will scream
Mm.
where
Mm-hmm.
you're having, an emotional hang up or storing trauma. It's not always trauma, but difficulty. Your
Mm.
body will show you through pain, through irritation, inflammation, anything that is a little bit uncomfortable or is pulling your attention to it is going to, there's kind of a guide a lot of energy workers, I use for sure, and a lot of other energy workers use. So, like, for instance, your lower back, that's your spine, that's your support. And so, if your lower
Mm.
back's hurting, that's an indication you're not feeling supported. And that can be support in many ways. It can be financial, it can be emotional, and it can be physical. Are you moving
Mm.
enough? Are you doing
Mm-hmm.
enough? Are you getting around? But is the emotional part of that is support. And
Mm.
that it always starts within. It always starts within.
Yeah.
Am I supporting myself? You always want to
Right.
go to self first.
Right.
So, and
And
there are many,
the
many places in the body, the
mhm.
chakras, each chakra rules a certain set of emotions and um, physical parts of the body, each chakra. So if there's a sacral chakra issue, I know right off the bat that's emotional. All right, let's talk
Mm.
about what's eating you up, what's getting
Mm.
to you, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting. I mean, you just hit it on the head, and the clients are like, "Whoa, yeah, I was
Yes.
doing that. How did you know?" And I'm like, "Really? There's a guide. You can actually look this
Uh-huh.
up yourself." And so I love educating
Yeah,
people.
that's amazing. And I know when I was doing my emotional healing, one of the things that I really needed to work on was um, loving myself and being able to use my voice, like speak up for myself for what I needed
Yes,
rather than hiding in the background all the time. And I found that when I would do hypnotherapy and people were letting go of negative emotion, I, being the hypnotherapist, I would feel it in my throat. It
yes,
was as though what they were letting go of would go straight into my throat. And I came to understand that that was my most vulnerable spot, right? That's what
yes.
I was working on, being able to speak up for myself and use my voice. And I would literally be doing hypnotherapy and my throat would start to close as I could feel energy was coming off of them and onto me. So
Yes.
that was something that I really had to, I'd be like squeaking. My voice would be
Uh-huh.
squeaking. And I'd
Yeah,
be, doing things internally to open up my throat again.
sure.
But yeah, it was amazing. But it was about that not using my voice and the emotion attached to that that was making me so vulnerable in that energetic area of my body.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's
And it
amazing how
always
that all
does
works.
lead back to, an emotion. And most of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, it's a self-worth issue.
Mm,
I'm not worth speaking up for. I'm not worth,
right,
countering someone. I don't want to rock the boat. I'm not worth that. We
right,
don't think that,
right.
but that
Right.
is
But
ultimately what that means.
the emotion
Mhm.
is saying that. So I
Yes.
would love to get into your own personal journey, your story. It's already time to take a commercial break. I told you that they come up on us quickly. So we are going to take a brief commercial break. And when we come back, I'd love to hear you share a little bit about your own struggle with emotional suffering and kind of the journey it has taken you on. So
Absolutely.
when we come back,
Let's
thank
do
you.
this.
Let's do it. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television. Please join us after the break.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy. I am your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you on the Bold Brave Television Network. I am here today talking with the amazing human, Nikki Lund. She is so amazing. She has been sharing, what she knows and how she practices Reiki healing. And now I would love to hear some of your own experience, Nikki, with emotional suffering and, how it came to a place where you felt like you had to do the healing and, some of the beliefs that drove that emotion. Please do share.
All right, let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
So I was married. I had 3 beautiful children, and my husband at the time developed an addiction to, well, first it was painkillers, and it eventually led to heroin. So his
Ooh.
behavior changed immensely. It became very abusive. I and my children were emotionally abused and sometimes even physically abused.
Oh.
I felt very stuck. I didn't know how to leave, how I would support my children, how I could do anything without him. And he used that to his advantage. And so I think a big part of that with me was my self-worth. I'm not worth it. No one will help me. No one will.
Right,
No
that
one wants
core
to take
belief.
me and 3 kids on. Yes. Yes. And
Right.
so I stuck it out. The other side of that was, I loved him and I felt like I would be letting him down or not being who I was supposed to be if I were to do anything like turning him in or, there were times I should have called the police. There were times I should have told people what we were going through and I didn't, to protect him. And I thought that was the right thing to do.
Right.
So
And I have talked before about how, sometimes we get caught up in sacrificing ourselves because, we say, oh, but he had this horrible
Yes,
childhood or he's been through all of this. And, if I just
absolutely.
love him enough, and really
Yes,
what that's about is not loving ourselves enough.
yes,
Isn't that correct? And that's how we
totally,
stay
100%.
stuck in there.
Yeah, yep,
Wow. Very
absolutely.
painful.
Yeah, yeah. And then the guilt of, well, I am making not just my kids, but myself stay here. This is my choice. I had a choice. And, at the time, I didn't feel I did. Looking back,
Mm.
that's something I've had to really work on and heal. There was
Mm.
deep, deep guilt, deep guilt.
Mm.
So, eventually it came to the point he punched me in the stomach,
Mm.
and I ended up going to the ER. My gallbladder was infected,
Oh my
and
goodness.
they had to do emergency surgery, and it became septic,
Mm.
and my organs were shutting down. They punctured a lung during surgery, so I had one lung. My liver
Oh,
was shutting down. My
oh my
heartbeat was
goodness.
extremely low. I was anemic. And I overheard the doctors tell him, she has about 2 weeks. You need to let the family know or make the arrangements you need to make. And
Oh my goodness.
I heard that and I went, oh no, 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 no. I don't know how I'm going to live through this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to live through this. And I went home
Wow.
2 weeks later. Yep. And that's
Wow.
when I
And you,
started thinking, how did I do that? How did I do
right.
that?
Tell me again what you said about 3 weeks later. I'm sorry.
I went home.
Oh,
I
you
was
went
supposed
home from the
to die
hospital.
in 2 weeks, and I went home in 2 weeks. I was in the ICU for 4 weeks, or
Oh
4 months,
my
I'm sorry.
goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. And once I
Oh
made
my
that
God.
decision, no, I'm not. No, my body will heal this. By golly,
Mm.
it did. It did.
Right. Wow. Mind, body, spirit connection, telling
Absolutely.
your
I
body
wasn't
that,
linking it at that point. I didn't make
mm,
the connection that I was actually in control there. It was
okay.
just, I need a miracle, give me one. I believe it can happen, and it happened.
Right. And
Right?
you said you were going to live.
Yeah.
Like,
I said, oh, no, 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 I'm not leaving these kids with that man. Uh-uh. Nope.
good for you. Now, did you stay with that man after coming out
I
of such a
didn't.
horrific?
We
Didn't.
separated very shortly after that. And
Okay.
that's actually when Reiki found me. And it did. I like to say it that way because I wasn't looking for it. It just found me. And I
Okay.
became very, very interested and just immersed myself in it. Like, what is this? Why is this so amazing? And I couldn't help it. I went all the way. I went all the way, and now I can teach it. So
Wow.
that came in very handy. My husband at the time ended up overdosing and passing away.
Oh, oh,
And
wow.
so I had 3 children on my own. I'd never had any kind of profession or job outside of the home. I was a stay-at-home mom. That
Mm-hmm.
fear was debilitating. I had
Oh,
no idea
wow.
what I was going to do. And that was the
Mm-hmm.
whole reason I stayed with him to begin with.
Mm.
Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So
Yeah.
I lived in fight or flight every day, every waking moment of my life. I was worried about something. I mean, worried, fearful,
Right.
scared to death. What if I
When
do
you were,
something
is
wrong?
that when you were in the relationship, you mean, or
Nope, after he passed away.
after? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just
All right.
completely on my own and
Okay.
living in a lot of fear every day, all day long.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
And so
I was,
did you, when you did when you started doing this kind of emotional dive inward, um, what kind of beliefs did came to your awareness about yourself, like core beliefs that you
it was
discovered?
the self-worth. I mean,
Mhm.
I could guide anybody through a healing and see results almost instantly. I was good, good, good
Mhm.
at it. And it didn't
Mhm.
occur to me, oh, I need to be doing that for myself.
Oh,
Oh, why have
okay.
I neglected my needs? Oh, that's a
Huh.
pattern. Uh-oh.
Hmm.
So I started deep diving into self-healing and
Mhm.
all the information I could get. I was just thirsty for it. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know from every angle, from every modality, every technique, what works best for me. Because healing is very personal. Something may
Right.
work for one
Absolutely.
person that absolutely won't work for another. And that does have to do with
Mhm.
the core belief system. Mine
Mm.
was self-worth all the way,
Mm.
100%. And
Wow.
so I did it. I dove
Now,
in.
do you think it was also that core belief of uh, not loving yourself, poor self-worth that uh, kind of, let's see, moved you forward, that emotion moving you
Yes,
forward into that relationship, that long-standing relationship with the husband that passed away and
I
kept
believe
you
so.
stuck in that? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see the red flags. I didn't see the signs. I didn't, I wasn't aware of how to take care of myself and look out for myself when it came to those things. I missed the
Mhm.
signs. And they were there.
Right.
Looking back,
Right.
they were there. I just,
Yeah.
you know, didn't see them because I didn't have the self-worth to do so.
Right, right. And I myself got caught up in a pattern of like, if I just do more, give more, try harder,
Hmm.
then everything will be better. And I was just missing the whole problem, the
Yes,
whole
that's
issue until
same
my
thing.
awareness was brought up and brought around to it. And then once I had the awareness, that was horribly frightening as well.
Yeah. Now
Because
what do I do?
yeah, now I have the awareness. I have to consciously choose to stay stuck in it and suffer,
Right.
or dive into creating the change, which is almost more frightening than
Oh,
staying in the
it's so
suffering.
uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. You have
So
to take a lot of
uncomfortable.
accountability and be very humbled in your approach to yourself.
Hmm.
Um,
Right,
there
right.
there was just so much guilt and so much fear.
Oh, mm,
Even when he passed away, I felt guilty
mm,
that I didn't see it coming because here I am, a spiritual
mm.
practitioner. And
Wow.
how did I miss that? Really? I mean, how did I miss that? And it took me a couple of years before it dawned on me, oh, well, I wasn't meant to see that. I wasn't meant to pick up on it. It was his time.
Right. Oh my
It was his
goodness, your
time.
story just resonates so much with me. I remember I've had two people very close to me in my lifetime commit suicide, and one of those people was my little sister, and I spoke to her right up until 5 o'clock that night when she had to go cook dinner for her kids and all of that,
Oh,
and then she committed suicide at midnight, around midnight or that time. And I did the exact same thing as you. I was a mental health professional. I'm supposed to know those things.
right,
How could I have missed it? How could I have not known? And I
right.
too spent years in guilt. I even quit one of my mental health jobs because
Oh,
I didn't have confidence in myself
right.
anymore to do suicide assessments and things like
Yep.
that. And just like you're saying, at some point uh, I had a little drop of information drop into my head from another realm that said it wasn't yours to fix, it
Right.
wasn't yours to heal,
Yep.
and that really did help me.
Exactly.
That I wasn't meant to change their path. I wasn't
Yes.
meant to stop them.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's so hard to accept.
It is. And in my healing journey, I like to kind of temper myself with my daughter when I'm relearning how to treat myself, how to talk to myself. Would I ask that of my daughter? Would I
Hmm.
ask her to take on that responsibility?
Oh,
Absolutely
that's
not.
good. Oh
No,
no, never.
no, I wouldn't. That would be ridiculous. But I asked that of myself, and then I punished
Exactly.
myself for
Hmm.
not doing it. So, I mean,
Right,
it's
right.
it's so big, but we miss it. We're not taught how to
Mhm.
listen to our own thoughts. You know, I
Mhm.
I was as spiritual as I was doing healings, I was studying, I was researching, I was meditating, I was really feeling like I was getting to a good place. But
Mhm.
in my head, in my mind, I was attacking myself left and right.
Mhm.
Oh, I should have done that. I meant to do that. Oh, why do I forget things? How come I do that? Why do I do that? Constantly attacking myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of led to some scary consequences physically for me.
Wow. Yeah,
When
I hear what you're saying about, like I too, have gone through those phases where, and I'm still in it. I'm always in it. Just hungry for information and wanting to
yes,
learn. And one of the things that is hard for me just to sit with is knowing, and I do know this for a fact, but just accepting it and sitting in it is knowing that whatever way I'm meant to guide healing, I'm the only one who can figure that out. And I
yes,
need to go inward and be quiet with myself
yes,
so that I can receive the answers and I can hear how to do that. And that's
yes.
something I always say I'm a work in progress. And
We
that's
are. We're
definitely one of
constantly
those
evolving.
areas,
All of us, we're
constantly
here to
evolving and
evolve.
expanding. I love the word
Yeah,
expanding.
yeah,
So thank you, Nikki. Thank you so much. When we come back, you did mention that there were some pretty dire physical kind of consequences for you. I'd
yeah,
love to get into your the what you're doing now and
uh-huh.
your current circumstances. So we're going to take another brief commercial break. Please join me after the break with the beautiful Nikki, so she will tell us more about her story. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television. We will be back in a couple of minutes.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy. I'm your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you on the Bold Brave Television Network. I have the pleasure of visiting with the amazing Nikki Lund, who is a Reiki master, and she is so genuine, so beautifully open. She's been sharing her own experience with emotional suffering and how she came to a point where she really had to do the healing. And, so somewhere along the line, Nikki, you developed an understanding of your own incredible power, your own power within your own self-worth, your own capability, your own healing capability. And now you're using all of that to heal yourself. Tell us about your circumstances and what you're doing currently.
So last year, 2023, in June,
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, stage 4,
Mm. Oh, wow.
and it was terrifying, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I spent 6 weeks kind of accepting that I was going to cross over. And
Oh,
as
wow.
I'm doing that, I'm thinking about my kids and my
Oh.
sweetheart, my soulmate, and my
Mm.
parents and my friends and
Oh.
all my people. And I'm just thinking,
Mm.
not in an egotistic way, just what are they going to do without me? You know?
Oh,
Who
absolutely.
who loves them as much as I love them? And
Oh.
in doing that, there was something that just kept saying, this isn't right. This isn't, it's just not time. And
Mm.
after the 6 weeks, it was a 6 week mark. I don't know what happened in 6 weeks or why 6 weeks, but I just kind of woke up and I started remembering, hey, you were supposed to die before. Remember?
Mm.
What'd you do?
Mm.
And I'm thinking, yeah, yeah. There's so much fear and intimidation with that kind of a diagnosis.
Oh, I can
There's no getting around it.
imagine.
You know, you will die. You will die. It could be 6 months, it could be 2 years, but this
Mm.
will absolutely kill you. There's no getting away from it. There's no
Mm.
escaping it. And after that 6 week period, something in me just kept going, uh-uh, no,
Mm.
no. I know what the data says. I know
Mm.
millions of people have died from this,
Mhm.
but it's not my time. It
Mm.
simply is not my time. As
Wow.
I started thinking this way and not really knowing, what to do, this comfort came over me. And it was, seriously, you don't have to do anything. Your body can do this. It was designed to do this, to heal from this.
Mm.
All I needed to do was listen. Um,
Mhm.
I started losing cravings. I've always been a sugar fiend. I have
Mhm.
sugar in my mouth all day, every day, love sugar. Once I made that decision, that hard no, I'm not
Mhm.
crossing over, not yet. Not because I'm afraid of death. I'm absolutely not. Um, that's where I come from, and that's where I will go back to. There's no fear in that. The fear was leaving my loves, leaving my people. And I love my
Mhm.
life. I don't want to leave my life. I'm not leaving my life. My life's awesome right now, and it keeps getting better. Yeah, no. So I lost the sugar cravings. Not that I don't eat sugar, I still do, but I don't have to have it every moment of every day. Um,
Mm.
my cells were replicating my thoughts. They
Oh,
were
wow, I love
attacking me.
that.
They were attacking me in the way I was attacking myself. Our cells listen to us. They they are the
Wow.
same frequency as our thoughts. We are the boss. Our body is
Right,
so
absolutely.
incredibly sophisticated and intelligent. It's so easy. We don't even know it.
Wow, let's just
Um,
say that again. Our cells replicate our thoughts.
our thoughts,
So,
they're on the
meaning
same frequency.
if our thoughts are negative or if our thoughts are hurtful to ourselves,
Yes,
then we are hurting ourselves at a cellular level. Is that what you're saying?
absolutely. Absolutely. And the evidence is there when you're in a fight or flight or just a
Mm-hmm.
not so great negative situation. What's going on chemically? I mean, our brain's a pharmacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're producing cortisol and adrenaline, and in my case, too much estrogen, an
Mm-hmm.
overabundance of estrogen, which
Okay.
led to me developing cancer.
Hmm.
And so I thought, okay, well, if my body created this, my body can resolve it.
Right. So that's that toxic internal environment that I was speaking of that I created for myself as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So I, went to an oncologist, and he prescribed some hormone therapy. So my estrogen would come down to a safer level, which is almost nothing at this point. I went into early menopause, medical menopause. So that's been a joyride.
Fun.
And they also recommended that I take an oral chemo. And so I did. I took it for a little while, and it made me so sick. It made me heavy. And the scariest part for me was I lost my mind. It created some sort of weird anxiety to the point I couldn't use my mind in the way that I needed to do what I needed to do. And so I said, no, that's not living. I am living, and that's not living. Not that I recommend this to anybody, do what your heart tells you to do. Listen to your heart and your intuition and your soul. This is just my story.
Your story, yes.
So I discontinued it, and we're 8 months in, and my latest blood tests are showing I'm within normal range. You wouldn't know my blood tests from someone who never had cancer. They would be the same.
Wow. So now
And I
tell
have
me,
not
you
taken it.
discontinued the chemo and then you did what instead though?
I started deep diving into having loving talks with myself, correcting all those toxic negative thoughts. Now, I had been on that journey prior to this, but when the cancer came in, it was my alarm bell. Like, okay, you really, really have to do it. There's no dabbling now. You can't just play around with this. This is, okay, Nick, this is important, like really important. And so I really committed to it. Being aware of my thoughts, being aware of my environment that I'm creating for myself, the people in my environment. I've had to back off a little bit from people that can't support me. And the results are amazing. I mean,
Wow,
amazing.
that's a great point that, when we do this healing, there are going to be people who can't support us in the way that we need to be supportive. And then, as I've said before on this show, then we need to be willing to let them go. It's
And that was
okay if they don't
so
support
hard
us.
for me. I love people so much. It was so hard for me to just cut it off. But that was my first step in I'm important. This is important for me. This is worth
Loving
it. It will be
yourself.
worth it. Yes. And so, there were some sacrifices that had to be made on my part, and it hurt. It wasn't fun, but it was necessary, and I love myself enough to do that. Again, the daughter analogy. Would I have my daughter around someone that was, not being kind with her, not encouraging her? No, I wouldn't.
Right, including ourselves, right, with our
Yes.
own self-talk. And I love
Yes.
the daughter analogy because it's kind of a nice way of checking ourselves, right? Like
Well,
saying,
I love her
okay,
unconditionally. And
absolutely.
my goal is to love me unconditionally.
Right. So would I ever say those words to my daughter when we have our own self-talk going on in our heads, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, so often we can be so hard on ourselves and say things in our heads that we would never say to even anybody that we don't love.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
We just would never treat people like that, but we'll treat ourselves like that.
No problem. It's normal, right? Everyone does it.
Right.
So,
right. So you started focusing on loving yourself, having that unconditional love and acceptance for yourself, which creates a very healing energy within. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also something that was new to me was the belief in my body, in my body's ability to heal. Now I'm a healer. I've been a healer for 14 years professionally.
Mhm.
I was not at the level I'm at now, and I've seen some pretty miraculous things. I've seen amazing things in the healings. But
Wow.
now that I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing with my own body, our
Mhm.
bodies are freaking amazing. I mean, that's
Wow.
an understatement. So sophisticated, so complex, and so attentive when all we need to do is believe in them, in our
Yes, mind,
bodies.
body, spirit connection. Oh, I love
Yes.
that. Thank you so much for sharing such a personal story. So, we're going to take another commercial break, but when we come back for our last segment, I'd love for you to just share some thoughts about what you'd say to people who are contemplating, ready, willing, whatever, to do their emotional healing. So, when we come back, please join us for that. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy here on Bold Brave Television Network. I have had the pleasure today of visiting with Nikki Lund, who is a Reiki master, and she has shared her incredible story of emotional healing and profound physical healing in this journey that you're on with cancer, and it's just so inspiring. We were talking about living in your highest vibration, right? And that's a vibration of love and gratitude and self-acceptance, let's see, compassion, right,
Yeah.
for yourself.
Yeah.
And this is really the vibration where we are our very healthiest, mentally, physically, in all, emotionally, all realms. And when we're in the lower vibration of living in fear and
Yeah.
self-doubt and fight or flight, that's the lowest vibration, and that's when things go wrong, right? That's when things
Very
start to
wrong.
fail us, because our bodies and our minds just can't continue on in that state forever. It's just not possible. So thank you for sharing your story. What would you have to say for people who are who are thinking about doing their own emotional healing, any kind of words of advice?
Get past the fear. You don't need to be as afraid as you think you are. It all begins within. Healing begins within, and self-love is the most beautiful gift you can give yourself and others. When your cup is full, it spills over.
And what would you say to somebody who is afraid of what's inside, afraid of, going inward because they're afraid of what they'll find?
The best advice I could give is, if you knew somebody that you loved were suffering in the way that you are inside, what would you have them do? What would you encourage them to do? Yeah, I know you got a lot. You got a lot you're carrying around, and it sucks and it's scary, but you can actually overcome this awful feeling that runs around with you all day. Love yourself. Love
Right,
yourself.
right,
Learn how to love yourself. Learn what that means. It doesn't mean
right,
the same thing to everybody.
right. And develop that awareness of how you treat yourself.
Yeah,
It
because
kind of starts with that
I'm here to
awareness.
tell you what's on the other side. It's
Mm.
really, really beautiful. You want this. You
Oh,
want this.
yes,
It's
yes.
worth it.
It's worth it, right? And you've already, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's all about past experiences and the emotions that were created within that past experience and the beliefs that we've developed about
Yes.
ourselves. So, in essence, we've already lived through it, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
already happened. It's not going to
It's
going
not going to
into
happen
it,
twice.
right? It's not going to happen twice, and it's not going to kill us to go deep in and to really explore it. I mean, and I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture
Right. It's
because it's
rough.
not necessarily
It's
fun.
work.
It's a tough experience. It is work,
It's
but it's
work,
so
and
worth
you're
it, just like
doing
you're
it
saying.
kind of blindly sometimes.
Mm,
You don't know what to do or where to go, but just trust. You're doing the right thing. You will get where you want to go simply because you want it and you're
right,
committed to it. It will come.
right.
Everything will come.
Yeah, and one of the places that I have spoken of where I started, because I really was like, I don't know where to start with this. I
Yeah.
know it has to
Yeah.
happen, but I'm terrified. I don't know where to start. And I just did the simplest of things, and it just was something that intuitively I knew to do, and it was to repeat this mantra. I
Right.
would say, faith over fear, faith over fear, faith over
Yes.
fear. I would literally soak in a bathtub and say that over and over and over, and it took a
Yes.
while before I really did have more faith than fear,
Yeah.
but it did happen. So thank
Affirmation
you
is
so
powerful,
much. Oh,
but it's one
absolutely.
step at a time. One step at a
Yes.
time. You're not going to heal big things overnight, but you can heal them. Just take the next step.
Absolutely.
Take the next step.
One step at a time. Oh, and you're such an incredible example. And your spirit and your love for life, I mean, it's just so amazing. You're such a great example and so
Thank you.
inspirational, because you're going through so much, yet you have this zest and love for life, right?
I
And
do. I do.
that is what's healing.
And I'm going
Healing,
through a lot, but I'm learning so
right?
much. And
Absolutely.
it's fascinating to me. I love it.
Absolutely. So right now you're not doing Reiki sessions. You're not taking clients because you're
I'm not.
focusing on
I
healing.
kind of stopped doing that for a little while to take care of
Wow.
someone who needed it.
Well, good for you. If
The
somebody wants to just
VIP.
connect with you, connect with you and say hello to you, or maybe run their own experience by you,
Absolutely.
would you be able to that? How would they get a hold of you?
You can email me. My email is namaste Nikki, NAMASTENIQUE @gmail.com.
All right. Well, thank you, Nikki, so much for being here. I
Thank you
so
for having
appreciate
me.
it. And I can't wait to have you back and hear more of your story. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. So
So
fun.
next week, next week on Talks with Tracy, I'm going to have a return guest again. Ash Benavides is going to come and share more of her experience with narcissistic abuse, and she's going to share some about the situations the universe has been sending her as kind of lessons about different types of narcissists. So she is ready, willing, and able to share her story about that and her own healing. So please join me next week. If you'd like to connect with me, you may reach me via email, hypnowithtracy@yahoo.com, or check out my website, tracyclaremonthypnotherapy.com. You've been watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television. I will see you next week.
This has been Talks with Tracy. Join us each week as Tracy and her guests will come together and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same and never alone. So join us each week and let Talks with Tracy be your safe place to land in your healing journey. Right here, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.